Hey everyone, thought I'd come on here and kind of give you my reaction, my thoughts on the new Rampage movie trailer that dropped this week from Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema. In case you don't know, Rampage is based on the classic video game franchise that was created back in the early to mid 80s. The game itself is an arcade game that has been ported to assumably every console in existence almost. It's been ported to the Commodore, it's been ported to I believe the Coleco and the ColecoVision and the Intellivision. Of course, it's been ported over to the Atari 2600, the 7800. It's been ported to a lot of the systems. It's been ported to the NES. It's been ported to the Sega Genesis, the Sega Master System. Super Nintendo's even had one. It's been ported over to the GameCube. It's been ported over to various other Sega consoles, even the TurboGrafx. I'm sure the 3DO has had it. I'm sure the Neo Geo's had it. It's been basically ported everywhere, and even with its newest titles that came out over the past several years, over the past decade or so, couple of decades or so, along with its sequel titles and newest titles and all that, it has enjoyed a continuous lifespan on systems like the Wii, the Wii U, the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, you name it. All systems, I'm pretty sure, again, all systems have had some kind of port of it. And for me personally, I grew up on Rampage. I remember playing Rampage when me and my family, along with our relatives, would go on our traditional summer vacation or summer camping trip to Lake Comanche here in California. When we would do that, one of the things that me, my sisters, and my cousins would end up doing is we would take a walk down to the arcade. Of course, sometimes with our parents, we would go down to the arcade, which was right next to the beach. Well, not beach, but next to the lake where we would go swimming. There was an arcade. You know, a lot of, I guess, lake areas would have this. And one of the arcade cabinets they had was, of course, Rampage. And that was one of the games me and my cousins would end up playing a lot of, along with everybody else. Because it was just such a fun and addictive game. It really was. And even now, I didn't get to play it when me and my family went to Santa Cruz last year for my nephew's 9th birthday. But because even though there were arcade cabinets, arcade areas with many arcade cabinets scattered around, I know there was Rampage. I believe I saw it, but I didn't get a chance to play it. The game that I did end up playing was the arcade version of Street Fighter 4, and I ended up being on that for quite some time because, well, quite frankly, I was having fun with it, and basically, I think I had some people seeing how I was playing and kind of keeping an eye on, like, whoa, this guy's pretty good. And this was the original arcade version of Street Fighter 4. Anyway, like I said, Rampage is, for me, a very personal, nostalgic favorite. In fact, truth be told, I ended up getting Rampage Total Destruction on the Wii, and I believe I can see it here, on the PS2. So, what does that tell you? And again, it's such a fun and addictive game. And one thing about those ports, and I think with maybe one or two previously, is when you bought those games, like you could buy Universal Tour, well, not Universal Tour, but World Tour, Through Time and all that. One thing about them is you were always able to get a port of the first Rampage game, the original Rampage. And then of course, now that systems have evolved even more, you don't just get that, but you also get the games that came after it. It's sequels, it's spin-offs. Now, as far as the movie is concerned, first of all, it's got Dwayne Johnson, it's got The Rock in there, and most times his movies, as of late, are hit or miss. So, we'll have to see how this one does, but I think it's going to do good because it's a personal, like I said, for a lot of us, it's a personal, nostalgic trip down memory lane. Now, the trailer overall, I really enjoy. I really thought they did good on. Now, some people will nitpick and say it's not totally true to what Rampage was. I'll give you that. It's not totally true to Rampage, to what the original concept of Rampage. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you look on Wikipedia and you look up any more information about it, it will state that it's loosely adapted from the series. And what means by loosely is they are going to take liberties. They're going to make some changes that we may or may not like and may or may not agree on. They're going to do that, but they're also going to stay true somewhat, if not mostly at times, to what made Rampage what it is. So even though it's not a true step-by-step adaptation, it's still an adaptation. Because let's be honest, with the exception of Total Destruction and maybe the other couple of Rampages before that, did we ever have a real cohesive story as to why these humans were turned into these monsters? Did we have any kind of real cohesive story? No, we didn't. We didn't have no real cohesive story. So what's happening here is the people at Warner Brothers, New Line Cinema, and the people behind San Andreas, which was kind of a mediocre hit, or mediocre blockbuster, if you will, they understand, obviously, because maybe they grew up on it, just like I'm sure Dwayne Johnson did, grew up on the Rampage game. They pretty much realize, hey, Rampage never really had a cohesive story as to why these people became these became these monstrous animals. There was no cohesive story as to one guy became the gigantic ape named George, why one character became a giant wolf, why one female became the lizard Lizzie. Nobody knew about that. Nobody knew what the story was behind that. We got some kind of an idea of what the story was in the following sequels, especially Total Destruction and I think even the one before that. But we never really had a very cohesive story. So I think that's what they realized, is they're going to bring this to the big screen. They need to have some kind of reasoning as to why this is happening. And instead of maybe, I guess, going the mutagenic route, where some human gets touched by an ape or a lizard and all that, and once they get exposed to these chemicals at the same time the animal does, or they basically get bitten by the animal that was affected by the chemicals, and they turn into the monster, which I know some people might say, hey, that makes more sense. They went with the more natural, if not, let's face it, more realistic route. Like, what would happen if you suddenly went to a zoo, if you're a zookeeper or an animal caretaker, and all of a sudden one of the animals you become trustworthy with, or has trusted you, all of a sudden goes from 7 feet to 10 feet overnight, after some kind of freak accident, somebody launching something into the area. Or some kind of chemical gas, or genetics edit, I think they call it in the trailer. How would you feel? From a realistic standpoint. You'd be freaked. You'd be like, what the heck's going on? I think they're going for that. They're going for that route. They're going in that direction of, okay, this is the direction we need to go in. Because I think they're also looking at the fact that if they were to adapt, okay, what I'm saying is, I believe what they're looking at is what if Rampage was made today? That's what they're looking at. Not just, oh, we're adapting a video game classic, which I'm pretty sure they all grew up on, and I'm pretty sure they did. But what would Rampage be like if it was released as a video game today. Because here's something that some people need to realize. Midway Games, the original people behind Rampage, were purchased by the WB. So WB has Midway Games. Thus, they have all the Midway game licenses that they can license out to any other people, any other developers, or they can develop themselves. So, when you look at Rampage, that's one of the titles they were able to acquire. And they're thinking, they probably went to some of the game developers and been like, and probably asked them, well, how would you develop Rampage if it was made today? How would you see Rampage being developed and being released today as a game? And I'm pretty sure some of the game developers that grew up on Rampage and playing it, they probably thought, well, in today's gaming world, the most logical sense is for regular animals to be affected. And that's basically what you're getting here. It's just again, these are just assumptions, but I'm pretty sure this is the direction they've gone in. I'm pretty sure this is what the direction they decided to go in when it comes to making this film. Was they decided, let's go in this direction. That's what I'm looking at. Overall, like I said, it does stay true to what Rampage is in some sense. You do see buildings and vehicles, helicopters and all that getting destroyed. So you do get that familiarity that nostalgic familiarity from the video game series. You do get that. So I'm looking forward to probably checking it out when it comes to theaters, because again, I understand some people are nitpicky. They don't like the fact that Rampage is not being true to its original roots. I get that, but again, the original Rampage, as much as it's a beloved arcade classic that I grew up on, and the people that worked on this film people that worked on this film grew up on, as well as someone like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, grew up on. Let's be honest. As much as it's a beloved arcade classic, it never really had much of a cohesive story. This is giving it a cohesive story. It's giving it an origins story that's more, I would believe, more accepted, because the reactions people have had to this are like, okay, we can run with this. Okay, we're cool with this. Because it's more, to me, it's more like realistic, and the people reacting to it positively probably realize that this would probably be the direction that a video game developer like WB Games, along with someone like maybe NetherRealms or whoever, this would be the direction they would go in. So, overall, I think it did its job. Like I said, you do have moments in this trailer that's going to be in the film that are very familiar to a lot of people that played the game. You have the buildings being destroyed. You have vehicles being destroyed. You have all that. So it's going to be really interesting when it comes out how basically. This is the way I look at it, and I apologize for this going long. I really do. But it's going to be interesting to see how much of a hybrid, this is what I'm looking at, how much of a hybrid this movie is going to be. Because there's going to be nostalgic moments. There's going to be there's going to be moments that video game fans that have played the game growing up and even to this day are going to recognize and be familiar with. But there's also going to be originality. Like I said, we're going to get more of a cohesive story, if not more of a cohesive origin story of how this all happened. So to me, Rampage, in the end, I think is going to be more of a hybrid film of you're going to get that familiarity, you're going to get that arcade feel, if you will. You're going to get that arcade feeling of the original game. You're going to get those sentimental, nostalgic moments, but you're also going to get some originality thrown in there as well. And I would not be surprised, because this is been the staple with any movies, especially like Rampage, and even video games. I will not be surprised that after it's all said and done, the door is left open for a sequel. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised, because Rampage has done that. They have had sequels that have come afterwards that included newer monsters and stuff, animalistic monsters. I would not be surprised if Rampage opens the door for that to happen. And if we get a second Rampage movie, if this one does well, expect the other monsters or animalistic monsters that debuted in the sequels to appear as well. So overall, I look forward to this film. I'm willing to give it a chance. Again, I think it's going to be a hybrid where you're going to get a 50-50 kind of like movie, where you're going to have moments that feel they come directly or based directly off of scenes in the game, moments in the game, as well as you're going to get some originality. An original story, an original cohesive origin story. You're going to get all of that. So overall, I'm looking forward to it. I apologize if this has gone over 16 minutes, on to 17 almost. I do apologize. I do apologize if I repeated myself a lot here. But I just thought I'd give my thoughts on the Rampage movie coming out on April 20th next year. Really looking forward to it. And that's all I can say. Let me know what you guys think down below. What are you looking forward to with Rampage? Do you think we'll get a sequel afterwards? Do you think they're going to leave the door open for that? And like I said, do you think they're going to leave the door open for that? And do you think I'm correct on us kind of getting a hybrid of a film here? Kind of 50-50. Let me know down below. Talk to you later.